Hey guys, it's Brian Botkiller, and today in being a successful musician, I want to talk about, is this whole thing ever going to work out? So this is a loaded question. We as artists, musicians, whatever kind of artist you are, we kind of have to ask ourselves this question all the time. Is this thing going to work out? Am I really going to get to a point where I'm making enough money to live off of as a musician to be able to consider myself successful? And again, as I've talked about many times in the past, your definition of success should not only be defined by how much money you're making. Because if it is, then honestly, you'll never be happy. Because there's no such thing, as I think human beings seem to think, as enough money. I think there is, because I think money is kind of evil when you come right down to it. But let's face it, it's a necessary evil, right? But if your happiness is defined and your success is only defined by the amount of money you're making, there's a really good chance that you're just never going to be happy with the work that you're doing. So you have to decide what is going to make you feel as if you have made it. And, that could be a lot of different things when you really come right down to it. It could be a certain number of, streams on Spotify or any other streaming network. Okay, sure. It could be, a certain amount of money made in a year and some other, milestones and various things like that. It can be a multitude of things, but I think you need to think very specifically about what it is that you consider to be the thing that makes what you're doing successful. Because really, when you come right down to it, if you're making art and you're putting it out into the world, and if someone likes it and tells you that, that's success in some fashion or another. I mean, that's a crazy way to look at it, and a lot of people will say, yeah, it's a cop-out, whatever, Brian. But that is success in some fashion or another. Keep that in mind. You are at that point reaching someone with your art, and they're taking an interest and they like it and they tell you so. So that is success, and that's a great thing. If you can do that, that's great. Now, obviously, unfortunately, we need money to live in this world. So most of the time, money is going to be a large part of, am I successful? So we ask ourselves this question all the time. Is this thing going to pay off? And when is it going to? And how am I going to know when I've made it? Or anything like that. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give to you, just besides the whole thing of really you need to decide what it is that you consider to be successful, is to just basically realize the fact that you might actually reach a certain point where you are more successful than you think at what it is that you're doing, and you're just not really thinking about it because you're working. You're getting stuff done. If you are a gigging musician, a gigging artist of some kind, and you're working a lot, it's gonna be hard because you're working, and you're working all the time. I know this firsthand. I gigged at some point or another through some number of years. I gigged upwards of 240 times a year. That's pretty crazy, and it's pretty hard to keep that up. But I was so busy that I really didn't think very much about the whole thing of, okay, am I actually considering myself successful? And then at some point or another, I started to realize, hey, I haven't really paid attention to this, but I've basically made my monthly nut what I need to live a month, right? Just working, being a musician, being a drummer, things like that. And I've been doing this pretty consistently, and I haven't really been thinking about it because I've just been so busy. Cool. All right, I must have reached some kind of milestone. And that's a great feeling if you can get to that point. So that's really the thing, is you kind of just have to be mindful of the fact that you may not necessarily realize it, in all honesty, that you've sort of gotten there. Of course, if you started to make a whole crap ton of money, yeah, you'll probably start to realize that. But as your work goes up and you get more done and various things like that, it generally stands to reason that you might just keep the train rolling and not really think about it too much. And at some point or another, hey, things are working out. So, in closing, basically, you're asking yourself that question all the time. When is this thing going to work out? There's not an easy answer to that, unfortunately, because there is no roadmap in the music business. There is no roadmap that you can easily follow to say, this is how I'm going to be successful. This is how I'm going to make a bunch of money. This is how everything's going to work out for me. There's not a roadmap for that. And so asking yourself this question needs to be less a practice of asking yourself it simply to kind of, let's face it, kind of be down on yourself. Because when you ask yourself that, you're usually saying, when is this thing going to work out, man? Because I'm really tired and I'm tired of working and nothing seems to be working out and all this kind of stuff. You need to try and stop asking yourself that question in that respect and ask yourself, when is this going to work out to my satisfaction? To the point that I feel like I've reached a level that I'm happy with, that I'm proud of, and that I feel like I can continue to sustain myself upon. If you ask yourself in that fashion, I think that you'll feel a little bit better about your work, about the sometimes lack of it, about the sometimes lack of money, various things like that. You probably start to approach it a little bit differently. And just remember, be good to yourself. Just because you've been doing this thing for a really long time doesn't mean that it's going to pay off immediately. And sometimes, unfortunately, that doesn't even mean that it's going to pay off in the long run. But you need to kind of define for yourself what it is that you consider to be paying off. Because that might be a number of different things in the long run. So think about that. Let it marinate. And give yourself the space to just kind of have some fun with it, hopefully. And, who knows? You might find, again, that, like I say, you wake up one day and you go, hey, what the hell, man? I think I'm actually making this thing happen. You can do it. Just takes work. A lot of work. So there you have it, guys. That's being a successful musician, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you have questions, comments, if I've missed anything, you want to talk about something else, whatever it is, leave me a comment, get me on social media, all that other good stuff. As always, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.